This video is about the importance of timber choice in windows and why we recommend Accoya. Now, for some people, when they think of wooden windows, they're thinking cold, drafty, single glazed condensation, paint peeling, going rotten, having to paint every couple of years, and then the things just fall to bits and you can't open them. But if you're considering new windows for a project, that doesn't need to be the case. Carefully chosen timber windows can last way longer than any other alternative window material, 60, 70 years. Thermal performance that is the best on the market, incorporating the latest advances in double, triple glazing. Paint finishes that are guaranteed to last for 10 years, and then even when they do need repainting, all it is just a maintenance coat over the top. So things have come on a very great deal with the technology available to timber window manufacture. But you do need to know that you're making the right choices, because not all windows are the same, far from it. We're looking at buying windows. What do we want to get from the window? Let's just think about that. They've got to look great, because if they don't do that, they're not going anywhere. You're not going to put them in your house. They've got to be carefully made, nicely finished. The second thing is they've got to keep you warm and comfortable, which goes without saying. So they've got to have good thermal efficiency, keep the drafts out, keep the rain out, keep the British weather out. And the third thing, but perhaps less obvious, is that once you've fitted them, you need to forget about them. So they should last for years and years and be trouble-free. And that third bit is where we're going to talk about timber, because the timber will have a big impact on that. 20 plus years of making and fitting timber windows has shown me that there are very great differences between a good window and a bad window. And what it's also shown is that those differences don't usually become apparent until a year or so down the line. Now, we're regularly replacing windows that are less than 15 years old. Now, what that means is if we're replacing them at 15 years old and they've failed, then the problems will have started way before then, and they will have started within the first few years. So it's clear that there are big differences between a good and a bad window, and they will have a very big impact on how long the window lasts. The problem is, how do you tell the difference? Because two windows can look very much the same. Both square, they've got glass in them, they're painted white, they've got hinges on them. What's the differences between the two? So what makes a good window? Well, there are four key things. Good design, precise manufacture. There's the timber that the window is made from, and then there's the paint finish that's put on it afterwards. And if those four things are done properly, then a window should last a lifetime. So for this video, we're going to focus on that third one, the importance of the timber choice, because that's the heart of the window. We've established that the timber is important. What is it about the timber that we need to know? Now, what comes up all the time is hardwood, softwood. And I think that that's a little bit misleading. If you just look at that, you do have the potential to go wrong in timber choice. Yes, generally speaking, a hardwood will be a longer lasting timber than a softwood, generally speaking. And that's the problem, is the generalisations, because there are one or two very distinct exceptions to that rule, and which do come up quite often. So what is it that we do need to concentrate on? Well, what you do need to know is what timber material you're choosing. If you're thinking about timber, there are two aspects about it that are basically going to be deal breakers. They'll make a massive difference. And the first of those is durability, the timber's resistance to rotting. The second of those is stability, and that's how much the timber moves in relation to its moisture content. The first of those things then is timber durability, and it's timber's resistance to rot. We all seen a window which you can just poke your finger through and it just disappears into there. That's timber going rotten. Timber durability is given a classification of 1 to 5. 1 is durable, 5 is non-durable. Most of the common joinery timbers that get used for windows will fall somewhere in the middle at around about 3 or 4. So joinery softwood is generally around about class 4. It improves if it's given a preservative treatment to around about class 3. Other timbers like sapele is commonly used. It's a hardwood, a tropical hardwood, around about class 3 durability. Oak, which everybody knows and is a wonderful timber, that's got around about class 2 durability. Now, we all know that oak lasts. We see it day to day in sort of buildings around and abouts on our high street. So that's a good benchmark. We'll come on to Accoya in a minute. Timber durability is great. It's highly important, but we're going to look at the second aspect, which is timber stability. And the best place to do that is to look at old windows and doors and just see what's going on and how they're behaving. We're down at the skip area, and we're going to have a little look and see what we can uncover. You can learn an awful lot here. I really like it, actually. Timber stability is basically the timber is characteristic whereby it changes sizes in relation to the moisture content. Now, the moisture content will change constantly throughout the life of a piece of timber. Well, basically, timber will draw moisture from the atmosphere when there's high humidity and it will expand, and then when there's low humidity in the atmosphere, timber will release the moisture and contract. So it's doing this constant expansion, contraction. It's called shrink swell cycle, and it happens throughout the life of the timber. There's nothing that you can do to stop it. It's an incredibly powerful force, and it's a characteristic of timber that all timbers have. Now that movement can be quite a lot. So if you've got a 4-inch wide piece of timber, that could be moving 1 or 2 millimeters. So I've done a more in-depth video about that, but just those are the basics of it. Okay, that's great. So, but what does it actually mean? Well, when you look at old windows and doors, and when you look at where they go wrong, where they go rotten, and why ultimately they fail and have to get ripped out, it's generally because they've gone rotten. They will have gone rotten because they've got wet, and they will have got wet because water's generally got in through a crack in a joint. And why does the joint crack? The joint cracks because the timber is moving, and that's the key point. So we'll first of all have a look at this one. Yeah. Oh, that was made of plastic. Let's have a little hunt down here. I love this door. This is a great example. Okay, here we're looking at it's a nice traditional front door which we replicated. So what we want to have a look at here is the condition of these rails. This is where you see timber stability. This rail is expanding and contracting throughout its life. The length of the timber doesn't change. So basically the joint where grain running at 90 degrees to each other, the timbers are moving at different rates, the paint can't cope, so there's that crack which opens up there and lets the water in. The water penetrates the end grain, it starts to go rotten. So have a look at where this door has failed, and it's failed on the joints. So just another thing which I've just uncovered, I think it's worth looking at. So look at this door here, it's made of oak. It's a lovely timber, but what I do want to just show you again is you've got these joint opened up because of the movement. So a lot of movement in that oak. Have a look down the bottom there at this joint down the bottom. I don't know if you can see that, the amount that joint has opened up. If we prodded around there, that's not rotten. Oak's a good durable timber. It's not rotten, but stability wise, it's not particularly good. So we've looked at timber durability, we've looked at timber stability, and we've understood the impact that that has. But what about Accoya? Why is that so special?